right, now moving on quickly to, we have, bringing back Stephen. Stephen's going to walk us through some wider industry aspects of, using the ERP MYOB Advanced, but outside that, things that affect it, but are industry items, and also go through some version history of MYOB Advanced for us to check on what's happening now and what's coming in the future, etc. Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you, Grant. All right, always good to hear from you, Simone, and always good to hear from the people at MYOB. Certainly just reflecting on that keynote by Serena, it was great to hear their experience around transformation. Hopefully we can all take something away from that. In terms of the first section of this segment, I'm going to talk a little bit to some of the industry updates, changes, and compliance that we need to. I'll jump through these pretty quickly because most of you will hopefully be aware of these changes as a result of either the last user groups we've been involved in or your internal conversations. One of the new updates that's going on at the moment is the introduction of payment times reporting as a new scheme by the government. The new payment times reporting scheme comes in effective as of the 1st of January 2021. And essentially is a scheme by which any organisations with revenues larger than 100 million per annum will need to report on their payment terms and times for any of their small business suppliers. Now, this will actually result in some significant transparency across business and also for consumers. There'll be a public register be made available in October of this year. And the goal is that that will actually just help with some increased transparency, drive behaviour around those larger organisations. Now, this new payment times reporting scheme is now available in MYOB Advanced as a customisation from 2020.5 onwards and will be rolled into the core product in the coming updates. Of course, e-invoicing is another initiative which is starting to really see uptake within industry. It's very much being driven at this stage by the government public type organisations where there's some immediate deadlines around e-invoicing compliance. But the goal of e-invoicing within the Australian and New Zealand markets is about helping to save businesses in those sorts of manual processing, those manual transaction costs that we see. They estimate $30 billion in the first 10 years worth of savings. There's been an adoption of the PPOL framework, lots of information on the ATO website or the NZBN website for New Zealand. And we're seeing that start to roll through. The biggest impact is, as I mentioned, around government organisations, where the Australian Commonwealth has mandated e-invoicing for all agencies from the 1st of July 2022, with a deadline of 1st of July 2021 for over 80% of invoices being able to be received electronically. There are some benefits for organisations in adopting this, in that they're actually going to be reducing the payment times for invoices that are received electronically. In terms of next steps, we're seeing quite a number of EDI providers signed on as approved service providers for e-invoicing. If you're looking at embracing invoicing, it is a great logical step if you're currently working with an EDI provider, because it's a great supplement to the transactions that they already do. But certainly reach out to your EDI provider, reach out to your partner if e-invoicing is a challenge that you need to start to work through, particularly if you're already dealing with government or a public organisation. You'll see that starting to be come forward as a deadline. In terms of our advanced releases, of course, most of you will be aware that we're in the process of the rollout of the 2021.1 release. We're expecting that rollout to be completed sometime around October. With 2021.1, we're seeing the incorporation of quite a significant volume of new features. And I've got a few of those up on the screen just to call up a few points. Some big changes around the KPIs, and Nick showed us previously that new KPI meter on the dashboards. If some of that was new to you, it's possibly because he was running that new 2021.1 version on the demo system there. Another great new feature being introduced is the new SMS messaging and mobile push notification support for business events. Useful not only for employees, but also for your interaction with clients or subcontractors or suppliers, whatever that looks like. But that is a new feature that's available. SMS messaging is a chargeable license option. So just reach out to your partner if that's something that you want to add. Those new side panel improvements are also a great result, a great benefit to organizations. And the new deduplication technology within CRM is also a fantastic one for those that are using the advanced CRM module. In terms of distribution commerce, Nick will talk later in the next demonstration session a little bit around this cross-company sales, but the ability to have intercompany transactions where you create a sales order in one entity that generates purchase orders in the other entity and flows on through AP and AR can be a great benefit to those organizations that have multiple entities running within that single advanced tenant. Of course, there's also some big improvements around dropship workflows. For those of you that are working with dropship type environments, that includes also supply returns as part of that dropship process, which is fantastic. Some changes around dead stock detection, and they've introduced support around both BigCommerce and Shopify integration through some new connectors. Those connectors are available as a 2021.1, again, as an additional licensed option. And there's been some good enhancements around those as well to support refunds and some anti-fraud detection from a Shopify connector perspective that might be useful for those of you that are working within B2C environments. In terms of field service, some enhancements there as well, particularly around integration to the new workflow engine, which again, Nick will call out in his tips and tricks segment. For those of you that are working with manufacturing, we're seeing the transition to the manufacturing edition as a specific vertical edition of MYOB Advanced, and the addition of new capable to promise and some new work center capacity scheduling features as well. In terms of the construction edition, again, another new vertical industry edition of MYOB Advanced, we're seeing the subcontractor billing enhancements. And within advanced people, again, we're seeing support for the new advanced workforce management solution, which is a great solution for those of you that have a large number of part-time casual type employees where you actually need to have clocking, rostering, award interpretation, and those sorts of features. It also introduces onboarding and some good HR features as well. So if that suits your organization, there's some real advantages around the advanced workforce management module. Again, within advanced people, we've seen enhancements to the New Zealand support and a big benefit of enhancements around payroll expense allocations, which will now support the allocation of leave, superannuation, work cover, and ACC as well. For those of you that have been asking for that, you'll very much appreciate that change. Of course, 2021.1 is a major upgrade, 177 pages worth of release notes there, so some light bedtime reading for those of you that want to get into the detail. The other thing just to be aware of course, is the relationship between MYOB Advanced and Acumatica. MYOB Advanced is, of course, an OEM'd version of Acumatica, which is the world's fastest growing cloud ERP product. As an OEM version, the MYOB Advanced does get all of the Acumatica features. So essentially, what we see the cadence as being is there'll be a significant release within a release cycle within Acumatica that's then localized by MYOB and then released to market. So we typically see a 6 to 12 months window between the Acumatica releases and the MYOB Advanced releases locally. But we can actually look to what's going on in terms of Acumatica releases as a bit of a foresight of what's coming down the lines in terms of new features. Acumatica has just released their 2021 R2 release. And so I'll talk to some of those features there, but just to highlight what's going on in the Acumatica world, getting some great coverage from some of the research organizations. Nucleus Research have identified Acumatica as being a usability leader. We can all attest to the benefits of Acumatica and the ease of use around MYOB Advanced. And of course, IDC has highlighted Acumatica as being a mid-market ERP leader in their recent report as well. In terms of that release update, Acumatica 2021 R2 is actually having a launch event being kicked off on September 22nd, next week, not too far away at all. We're seeing quite a broad range of improvements and new features really focused around 3 key areas. First one being seamless personalization for users, boosting growth through best-in-class functionality, and driving innovation with a robust ecosystem. To give you a little bit of an idea of what's coming, I've again just broken this release into some of those sorts of key areas. Just to call out a few of those, some significant changes from a platform perspective in terms of new email integration with SendGrid. The goal of that will be to actually bring significant marketing automation benefits around Acumatica and around Advanced. So if you can think, for those of you that are using the CRM and marketing automation pieces, that will give you the ability to do marketing automation within Advanced itself and see things like open rates and do tracking around links. So some good benefits for those of us that are pushing Advanced from a CRM and marketing perspective. The other big benefit from a platform perspective is their shift towards direct integration with Microsoft Teams within the product. Again, a very exciting change there. And also the start of their multi-base currency rollout. For those of you that are currently using multiple entities where you have multiple currencies, there's no way to have multiple entities within one tenant with multiple base currencies. So an Australian dollar company needs to be in a separate tenant to a New Zealand-based company. With this rollout, what we're starting to see is Acumatica embrace multiple currencies within one tenant. At this stage, that's just restricted to the core general ledger, accounts payable and accounts receivable modules, but we'll see that extended out throughout the system over the following releases to the point where you'll be able to have multiple currencies supported within a single tenant and all the benefits that intercompany consolidation and sharing of data such as suppliers and customers across those companies will bring. In terms of usability, there's some significant changes around the toolbar and a new consolidated toolbar that brings some ease of use benefits, new sorting options around dashboard tables, and some big enhancements around business events in terms of the ability to trigger business events through workflow. And basically what we kind of call codeless, a codeless approach to automation of complex business processes. Now, Nick will talk a little bit more to some of that in his tips and tricks segment, and that will give us a little bit of a preview in terms of some of the things that we can do around those features. Distribution and commerce, some changes around identification of upsell and cross-sell opportunities for those that are selling inventory, some changes around item substitutions, again, to make that process simpler. Some enhancements around the warehouse management module. And in terms of field service, some big changes around the mobility piece with the app now supporting a simpler process for tracking of time and adding of inventory for field service. In terms of manufacturing, there's now a visualization around the production scheduling to more easily identify over and underutilized resources, and how that compares in line with raw material shortages, some material constraints, and also customer commitments, which kind of leads into the CTP changes that have been introduced in the current version 2021.1 of MYOB Advanced. And look, that gives you a little bit of an idea of what's coming, some changes around construction as well. And of course, this will be coming soon to MYOB Advanced. And typically we do see that sort of 6 to 12 month window between when the Acumatica release is in general availability and when that's localized and released by MYOB. So we'd expect that to be most likely first half of 2022 at this stage. And I'm going to hand over now to Nick, who's going to take us through an exciting demonstration around some tips and tricks, some of those new features in MYOB Advanced, and calling out a few of those things that are coming out down the line. Over to you, Nick.